Hey everyone, welcome to the Superhero Show. Daniel and Chris here, and there's been lots of rumours this week about Blade. So we're going to talk about something that's close to both of our hearts. It's kind of the supernatural and horror.
We're going to do a scary show.
We're going to do a bit of a horror themed show.
Awesome.
So let's kick off with the Blade rumour. So the website Bleeding Cool has reported Marvel is planning a reboot based around the rebooted comic of Blade that's coming out later this year post Secret Wars, and that comic series is going to be based on his daughter Fallon Gray. The rumour is the comic has also been delayed, possibly because it is being primed for adaptation. And Snipes told IGN at San Diego Comic-Con that he was surprisingly talking to Marvel about reprising the role. So this idea of it passing on to his daughter makes much more sense to me why he'd be involved rather than doing another Blade film with him as kind of the big star.
Yeah.
So first off, what do you think of this concept?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a female Blade. You know, Wesley Snipes nailed it. He was Blade, so to recast it is a tough thing to do, and we've talked about that with lots of other things. You know, what do you do with Iron Man, Captain America and things when these actors' contracts run out have done such a good job, and I think what a brilliant and interesting way to have a female superhero.
Yeah, so that's another thing that we've discussed many times on the show is this notion of, you know, the Black Widow kind of drama is, you know, why has she not got her own movie? We're going to get a Wonder Woman movie. We know eventually we'll get a Captain Marvel movie. Be cool if one came, you know, because we think we knew all the Marvel movies coming out to 2020. Like, this is still a rumour. Be surprising to know where this would actually drop and whether that gets slotted in, because you're tackling a different part of that universe. It's almost feasible that this could still happen before, you know, 2020 rolls around.
And stand alone, so it doesn't have to be part of that larger MCU. They can just do their own thing, or a separate universe.
Or there's just one character. I think, for me, I think it would have to be connected, but it could be connected without being integral right now. Like, Doctor Strange could be easily the character who makes the cameo to go, hey, this is connected, but we're just going to have this on the back burner for now. We've got enough cosmic stuff to take us up to 2020. This stuff can maybe come into play in Phase 4. So it'd be really cool if this drops and see what... I think they probably want to gauge the response. I think a lot of it might hinge on people and how much they warm to Doctor Strange and the universe that introduces, just as a lot hinged on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. I think we all thought it was wishful thinking from Wesley Snipes when he said he was talking to Marvel about rebooting it.
Yeah,
but now it makes a lot more sense because... You know, if he was going to do a standalone Blade or Blade 4 with him in it, you need to lose a few pounds before that happens.
Yeah. So he never ages, does he? So you've got kind of a bit of feedback about how they might utilise Wesley Snipes
from Simeon,
if it happens at all.
Which is an awesome name. He says, "What do you think about all of this, including the Fallon Gray stuff? Do you think the first movie back should focus on Blade or his daughter or both? Do you think it should acknowledge the original trilogy stories or act like they never happened?" I think you should have him back and acknowledge those stories, but it be a passing of the torch movie.
And I think
or maybe, you know, she's been active for 10 years or something, and it's just he has to be brought back in to help out or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you don't have to acknowledge the original movies all that much. I wouldn't be picking up any storyline threads from them whatsoever, but kind of have almost an implicit agreement with the audience, like... He's been that Blade is kind of ushered in, but we're not going to dwell on any of the specifics.
Yeah.
It's the Blade that you know and recognise from 3 movies, and that's good enough, because it was New Line, wasn't it, I think first Blade. Yeah, I think that's probably the most elegant way of doing it. And like a new audience, not seen Blade's fine, but then from everyone else might get a kick out of it. Yeah, that's probably the best way to kind of go about it.
Definitely.
Now, also, to get on to another bit of feedback from John March from Nottingham in the UK, he says, if this does go ahead, who would be your pick for a director?
Guillermo del Toro?
I just think, if only there was some director affiliated with the Marvel Universe who has experience with a young female vampire slayer.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Don't know.
Edgar Wright,
Russo brothers.
Always,
Just give it to Russo.
Throw these ones out.
Del
Toro, maybe Del Toro did his Blade movie, which was the best Blade movie, and maybe, you know, he's moved on to Justice League Dark, hasn't worked out for him as such, and he's, you know, he still wants to do Hellboy 3. So maybe although he would be a great choice, maybe he couldn't be in the running really.
Yeah, because if you look at a lot of the directors that have been selected for the Marvel movies, they're kind of unorthodox. Some have come from comedy. John Watts has come from horror. He's done one horror movie. I would like to see if they do pursue more of the supernatural characters, and we'll go through some of them in a minute. I would like them to pick young horror directors. It'd be really cool.
Or like Adam Wingard would be good, who did The Guest and You're Next. He'd be a great choice. Equally, I think a really good choice would be Gareth Evans of the Raid fame. Can you imagine the action?
Well, for a Blade movie, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good choice.
Yeah.
That's a really good choice. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about the supernatural, because Marvel has been around. I know people think we give undue weight to Marvel in the show, but it's literally just because they've made more stuff at this point, so they're setting the template for not just superhero movies.
Let's stop explaining that.
They're setting the template. We spoke to the producer of Hitman in general, Hitman the other day, Agent 47, and he said they're not. What they're doing is setting a template down for Hollywood in general. Yeah. This idea of universe building, everyone's looking to them and what they're doing in the blockbuster sphere. And one way they've kind of increased the longevity of that universe is bringing in vastly different kind of settings and types of characters by introducing cosmic characters. And when Feige, who's always been a fan of Doctor Strange, this project he's always wanted to do, has spoken of that character, this is what he said: "There's a whole other side to the Marvel Universe, which is the supernatural side. We've always been very interested in this aspect, and this is going back to the early days of Strange Tales with Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. I love that stuff. We haven't done anything that mind-trippy yet, and for me, Doctor Strange is our doorway into that."
Trippy, psychedelic. Sounds good. Well, the supernatural hasn't always done well in superhero terms on the big screen. Yeah. There's been Spawn, there's been Ghost Rider, both failures, I would, in my opinion. Constantine, exactly. The film
on film and television, like TV shows, okay, but it got canned again after it didn't catch people's imagination.
Yeah, I think that one, it was maybe they played it a bit too safe, but we're going to see Constantine back in other shows played by the same actor, which I think is quite interesting. Recently, we had R.I.P.D.
Oh God,
won't be getting a sequel. You'd forgotten that one, hadn't you?
Everyone's forgotten that. Oh, what's that other one then? Dylan Dog. Yeah,
Brandon
Ralph, Dylan Dog.
I'd forgotten that one. I think so. The only one I'm thinking of that's kind of nailed it is Hellboy, really. Not enough to get a third movie, but two really interesting films. Yeah. Right director with the right material.
And the first Blade, I remember.
Sorry,
of course, Blade. Take them as given, but not the third one. The other one with Ryan Reynolds in, like R.I.P.D.
Well, any superhero movie, any.
Can't wait for Deadpool. It's going to be really good. But I think we're in a really good era for it. It feels like a lot of the kind of we're in almost a golden age of supernatural on TV. Particularly in TV, it seems like every show has some kind of supernatural element to it at the minute, and horror as well as in this new golden age on TV.
Yeah.
So it'd be really cool to see that some of that go back onto the big screen.
Yeah.
Through these movies.
Through Doctor Strange. Shazam has a kind of bit of magic.
Yeah, it's magic.
Yeah, it's a wizard, and if you include that in the same universe, that's one that's a bit I don't really understand yet, because it's the only DC Warner movie that's not going to be part of Zack Snyder's universe, they're saying at the moment. So I'm trying to get my head around.
Well, it's actually interesting if you go back and look at the history of DC Comics. Marvel's universe was created mainly by a handful of people. Obviously Kirby, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and it was kind of organically created and tied together. Some of DC's universe was built by acquisition. They bought different characters, and suddenly they were welded together into a universe. So obviously, tonally, there was kind of disconnections there, and I think that's really interesting and probably a problem they'll face, because sometimes those, even Batman and Shazam don't feel like they should exist in the same universe, really. But there's so many great characters that Marvel could tap into. So you said Ghost Rider already, but we've got Moon Knight, Morbius, Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing. You could even do kind of a team-up movie with Supernatural Avengers, or the Howling Commandos is another thing they could do.
Yeah, Zantana's another one, Demon Knight. I mean, the one we were supposed to be getting, and we've already mentioned it, is Justice League Dark. And that was supposed to be Del Toro doing a Supernatural Avengers. I mean, that I was so into that, but I think he dropped it. It was a choice between that and Pacific Rim 2, and he wanted to do Pac Rim, which makes me sad and depressed. And That just sounded like a really cool event movie that could kind of change the way we look at these kind of films.
Definitely. And then there's another character, I think, who has a really storied history, is Swamp Thing. Like, some of the greatest comic book writers have turned their hand to Swamp Thing, especially in the wake of Alan Moore. You know, Grant Morrison's done, Mark Miller, and like contemporary Charles Soule and Zack Snyder, that's Scott Snyder, I should say, have all done their kind of run on Swamp Thing. And that's a really dark and weird character to bring to the big screen.
I'd like to see a Swamp Thing TV series, actually. And the other one that we haven't mentioned that I'm really excited about is Preacher. So it's not superheroes as such, but it's a supernatural comic book that obviously Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg are doing at the moment. And that, I think that's the comic book TV show that I'm most excited about, just to see how they go about trying to nail the tone of that comic, the weirdness and the immaturity and the nastiness.
You say nastiness. So some of these like films, so say this Blade kind of reboot goes ahead.
Yeah.
How do you think they'd pitch it? Because the first Blade was an 18, and it found an audience. But obviously, you're going to have something affiliated with the MCU. But the Netflix shows are affiliated with the MCU, and they've not been afraid to push it. Obviously,
you know what? I think an 18 then is a 15 now. I think you get I think the same violence is in that movie. If you did that now, you get 15 in England, which I think they'd be fine with, and you get PG-13 in the States. I mean, the point is, it's a lot of vampire killing as well, which you can get away with a little more than. I mean,
it's like 30 Days of Night. I remember seeing that. I'm pretty sure that's a 15, and there's some horrifically graphic stuff in that. There's
He'd be a good director for one of these.
Yeah, but I was always wondering if they would do that. Say the next era is Marvel doing all these kind of horror-influenced characters on the big screen. Would they just go, yes, this is MCU, but it's another part of it, and we're going to say these are 15s, or they can be 15s if the directors put something in it gets that certification. We're happy for them to be 15s.
Yeah, and you launch them like a horror film. You know, James Wan's horror movies making $180 million, $200 million at the box office. Launch it like that. You know, it doesn't. Well, they put them in the summer now, but you can do them later in the year. It doesn't have to be a summer movie. I mean, another one we've not touched upon is Sandman. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's doing that. How do you pitch that? That's a pretty frightening.
Yeah, and I also feel like some of them, like obviously some would need more substantial budgets, but I think some of them don't need that big final act, city falling from the sky, final reel that would warrant it going above 100 million.
Yeah,
you could do some of these on a 30 million budget, 50 million budget, and they could be interesting.
Yeah. In the way
types of narratives.
In the way a horror film, you know, horror films have all different kinds of ending. So I think, I mean, it's fair to say a lot is going to depend on how Doctor Strange performs and does. And that might be the superhero movie you and I are both most excited about at the moment, just because looking forward to something different than what's come before.
Definitely. I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, horror director Scott Derrickson from Sinister. Right, cool. Let's get on to a bit of feedback.
Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
It is from Andhika, who says, I know who should direct Fantastic Four. A movie about a stereotypical sitcom broken family with unique cast of members. It's a job for Wes Anderson. The yellow hue would fit perfectly with the blonde-haired characters, the flaming human torch and the orange rock thingy. And we shall call it Fantastic Mr. Four. I think you're being a bit silly, aren't you?
I think that's a credible suggestion.
I would see it. We should do a fake trailer for it, though.
Actually, have you seen the Wes Anderson X-Men?
Yeah.
Basically, just steal that idea.
Steal that.
Thank you.
Great idea, though.
Another suggestion, maybe a bit more of a serious suggestion for who should direct a Fantastic Four reboot, if there is one, from Damien in Worthing, West Sussex. He says, with the Fantastic Four films being way below average, why not let Brad Bird have a go at directing a Fantastic Four film in the MCU, maybe in Phase 4 post-Infinity War? And he is. It's called Incredibles 2.
Yes. Why would he do that when he's already done it?
Well, he's doing it again. He's doing it again.
We messed up. Robert Lee from Sheffield wrote to us to say, in last week's episode, I couldn't quite believe that there was no mention of the third Marvel Disney film that was released in 2015, and that was Big Hero 6. So that's in reference to us talking about the superhero movies that were released this year. Despite it being an animated film, it was a superhero movie nonetheless, and given its 2015 UK release, it certainly falls in line as one of the year's best films, let alone the best superhero film. Did it come out in the States in 2014? Maybe
Yeah,
that's why
it did.
that's probably why we didn't
I think
do it.
we saw it in 2014 as well. We saw it before Christmas.
Yeah, so-
but we did go into that show, and we were like, "Is it just these three? Is just it?" And
Yeah,
you were like, "We should know this stuff.
We should know
And,
off the top of our
and I'm
head.
literally googling superhero films in 2015, and it's just, yeah, let's move on.
Well, equally, I think we
Let's move on.
mentioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles once last year, and maybe
fine.
once in passing in a show, and that was...
Doesn't have to be comprehensive, Chris.
I hadn't seen it though. I've seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles now because it's on Sky,
It's good, isn't
so
it?
we can. It's all right.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It's not awful.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about that.
No, we're here to talk about Isaac Weatherby's question. Really enjoyed the show, and we'd just like to say that the rumour about the Joker and Suicide Squad being Robin previously is absolute rubbish. Fair enough, the scars on his shoulders, arms look similar, but if you look at the Robin outfit in the BVS trailer, there is a pretty significant bullet hole in the stomach area of the suit, and yet no sign of any scars on the Joker in the same area. I'm also extremely surprised just the concept of this hasn't upset all the hardcore fans.
Yeah, maybe they don't believe it. Good. I like the eagle-eyedness of the viewers.
Yep, it's good.
We should have looked for that. I could read this out, but this feels like a show for another week. Most anticipated superhero movie of 2016.
I think it's because we said it at the end of last week's show.
This is Matt from Surrey, and he says, with so many superhero films on the horizon, I just want to know which you are most excited for. That feels like a whole show.
I think
or should we
probably-
just say Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange?
Probably Doctor Strange right now, but I think at the end of the year we'll go through every single one.
Yeah. Easy show.
Easy show. That's what we want around Christmas time.
Rack 'em up.
Yeah, get the tuxedos out again.
If we can fit it.
Jaden McAllister's written in. He's watching from all the way in Australia. I was wondering if you guys have spotted the possible Wasp cameo in the subatomic section in Ant-Man. Because I've tried the last 2 times I went and couldn't find it, if it's even there. So I've seen the movie twice, and when I was watching it the first time, I thought, I bet it would make sense to have her in there if that's where she's gone missing. And when I watched it the second time, I really scoured. I couldn't see anything, so we'd have to wait till the Blu-ray. But I imagine if it is there, somebody would have snapped a shot of it already. Or
Yeah.
it would be out there. Maybe she's so small you can't see her.
The last 2 times you've seen. How many times did you go and see it? Just the last 2 times.
Just the last 2 times.
That's impressive commitment. This is from Joe Balfour, who says, I was thinking, and the one area Marvel really are lacking is in an Arkham quality video game series. It would be amazing if they managed to include a game in the MCU. This could be a real great addition and unique way to extend the universe beyond the movies and TV shows. Thoughts on any great characters they could use? It may be too close to Arkham, but I'd love a Daredevil game.
Probably would be a bit similar. Yeah, I think Marvel, after the Disney acquisition, kind of very conscious that a lot of their recent video game adaptations haven't been all that great, and probably stopped production on a lot of them and took it, reassess what they wanted to do with it. We've got Marvel via Disney Infinity, and I think they've got plans working on right now. They've hired people in senior roles to oversee their video game adaptations, and so I reckon in the next few years you're going to start getting announcements of really high quality, high budget games, similar to what Disney have done with the Star Wars games going forward. I think they've just taken a little bit more time to work out what they want to do, but I definitely think we're going to get AAA Marvel games. Why wouldn't they do that?
I think an Ant-Man movie would be fun.
We've got an Ant-Man movie.
A game.
Final bit of feedback is Logan Sorrell. That's a good name, Logan, from South Africa. I wanted to know your guys' thoughts on the rumour that George Miller will direct Man of Steel 2.
So I heard some things this week, actually, which I haven't spoken to you about, but they entirely conflict with each other.
Okay.
I've heard that George Miller is definitely doing it. It's a done deal.
It's definitely.
And then I heard from another source that it can't be a done deal because it's being put back. They haven't announced it yet, but it won't be coming out when they've suggested it's coming out.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, but the person who I trust the most would be the one that said Miller's definitely directing it.
Interesting. So obviously there's a bit of priors here. He was attached to direct the Justice League movie that was heavily... Well, he's on the cusp of shooting.
Yeah.
It had a full cast on location.
Yeah, they'd done 2 weeks in Australia.
Crazy. Obviously he's, after Fury Road, much celebrated again.
Yeah. For the visuals more than the amount of money it made, I think, because the amount of money it cost, I think, is more than the amount they've said.
Yeah.
And then, the marketing on top of it.
Also, the sensibility of the movie. Like, a lot of film fans... It's a really great movie. It's a really good action film, summer film. But I think also, I guess, the ethic behind it that people really fell in love with. Don't know how much of that you could do with a Superman movie. You could find a dude who can fly.
No, you just put Superman in a car or hanging off a big stick on the front of a car for 90 minutes. Maybe you could cross the two movies over.
Hanging off a big stick in front of a car. So he would be a cool choice. And also, I feel a little bit sorry for Henry Cavill in all of this. Because he was the guy who was new Superman, and it was all about, you're a Superman, and we're going to get Man of Steel 2. Batman v Superman was Man of Steel 2, and then he's taken a bit of a backseat to everything that's happening around him. So it'd be really interesting for him to get a great director like that to do his next movie where he's the star.
I would also say probably don't ever feel sorry for Henry Cavill.
It sounded hard, didn't it?
Things have gone all right.
Because imagine what it must be like to be in. Life must have been a bitch up until now.
Yeah, poor bloke.
I bet he always gets a free coffee in Pret. Anyway, thank you for all the feedback. We get a lot of it. We do read it all. We can't read it all out on the show, I'm afraid.
Otherwise we'd be here all day.
Yeah, but if you've got any more, send it us at
superheroShow@ign.com.
And until next week, for everything on superheroes, stay right here on IGN.